Welcome back, y'all. This is the final of Nobody Taught Me This. But I would love to hear, it doesn't have to be the final. I would love to hear what you guys want to know. What else um, drove you to this channel? What you'd like to hear about, whether it's travel related, um, yachting, money, um, living in Montana, um, how I find work. How I leap before I look for the net. I mean, whatever kind of questions you might have, or if anything, stirred something in you, I would love to hear about it. So, and we can talk more in another video, or I can talk more to you. Um, so in this final one, I just kind of want to talk about like for other people. Um, I recently had a conversation with a family member, a friend of mine, and their kid is about to go to college, and it's in kind of that stage of, I don't want to say procrastination, but I remember this when I was getting out of high school. I didn't really want to go to college. Thinking about another 4 years of school like did not sound fun to me, and I I wish I had known then people like in Europe who do gap years, which means they'll take a year off and then they'll go to school. Um, I know when you have like sports scholarships and things like that, you don't always have the luxury of taking like a gap year or something, but it's definitely something to think about if you have that flexibility because I didn't, you know, and going back, sorry. Also, leaving high school and in college, I feel like everyone constantly asks, like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Like, what's your major? What's your major? What's your major? And I had no idea. I was freaking 18, 17, 18, and then going to college when I'm, yeah, still 18. Like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I don't know what freaking major I'm gonna do in college. And thankfully, the first year or two of college is your basic coursework. But there's just so many other things you can do. And even just like going to trade school and learning a trade before you decide, okay, yeah, now I want a 4 year, college degree. But anyway, I digress. Going back to just designing your own life, like for those who are listening, if you're younger, if you're in high school, getting into college, um, think about those things. There's so many different alternatives out in the world that don't involve just graduate high school, go to college, and then what, right? So I just urge you to start to look around, start to Google stuff. Even for people who are older, who've had careers or have been in the same career for years, like if it's not something you want to do, if it's not bringing you joy, I feel like you should ask yourself, like, is this really what I want to do for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and decide, you know, or and just what I want to tell you is like you can decide. You don't have to do what society thinks you should do or what your parents think you should do. Um, I part of this whole series was just that I constantly was choosing something something that would interest me, like scuba diving interested me. So I took a trip. And then I took another trip and I was scuba diving and then I started meeting people who were scuba dive instructors and then I started meeting more people who were traveling and like just taking the first step of like learning how to scuba dive, you know, it led me in a different direction. And before that though, before scuba diving, when I was in Montana and doing my 9 to 5 job and struggling with bills and thinking like, is this really it? Is this we just do this until retirement and then we get to like live our lives? Like, no, we only have one life to live. The only thing you cannot get back in this life is time. Time is so precious. So, how you choose to spend your time, what gives you joy, that's how I feel we should all be living our lives. And if the job you're in is draining you or the town you're in is not aligned with you, if you're not meeting anyone who has the same values or the same interests as you, maybe it's time to move, maybe it's time to get a different job, maybe it's time to um try something different. And I think I'm just here to tell you that like taking that leap, you know, it once you take the first one, it just gets easier and easier to like take the next one and take the next one. And I know it's hard, like unlearning that 9 to 5 equals success and unlearning that, like, you have to make money, you have to make money, you have to make money. I mean, yes, we all have to make money to live. You need to buy food and shelter and water. However, there are ways you can make money and live the life you've always dreamed of. Um, I don't know why this just came to mind. I often hear some of my friends who say, one day I'll live on a farm, like I'll live on a farm with no people around, just animals. And, I'm always encouraging. I'm like, why not now? Why not now? Or like, what's the next step you need to take to get to that farm? Is it a down payment on land? Is it whatever? Sometimes when you have that big dream, just breaking it down into small baby steps is like can make it look super attainable. And I'm always telling my friends, like, whenever they say one day or someday or when I retire, I'm really trying to break people out of that someday because someday might not come. And I feel like we all, the whole world, should live for right now and live in joy and live in love and, find peace for ourselves. If if that means living on a farm and never seeing another human again, like go for it. If you're someone who has few friends because you're living in a big city or a small town and you just can't find them, or just no one is really interested in the things you're interested in. I mean, the internet, especially, it's so big right now. Don't, please don't, please don't get caught up in some sort of like catfish thing. Be careful, discern, use discernment when you're choosing people over the internet. And but yeah, just start like dreaming instead of saying someday, be like maybe next month, maybe next year. Um, and just start putting that plan together of what that looks like. And for me, with travel and not being in one place very long, it's hard because there's uncertainty. There's not always there isn't a steady paycheck. So sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to, what did I do one month? I helped my friend with a catering job for a couple days a week just to make some extra money, you know? And in the beginning, in the first few years, like, yeah, there were times where I had maybe $100 to my name, like literally. Um, But granted, I still had those 401ks from way back in the day. So I wasn't, on the verge of being homeless. It's just, um, well, another thing they teach us, you never want to dip into that retirement because you'll have so many tax penalties. So, God forbid you take some money to help yourself eat out of retirement because of all the tax penalties. Anyway, I'm digressing, but um yeah, there's just after a while you kind of learn just you're you can work any job, especially if you've worked a few and you can find help. That's something that it may not be true for all people. I can't speak for all people, but for me, I could always I don't ask for help a lot, and it's something I'm working on, but there is help out there. There is food cabinets, that's not the right word. All I'm saying is even if you're scared, do it scared. I most of us are such planners anyway. You'll probably plan you know for the worst, which we always do. We never plan for the best. We always plan for the worst, right? And but there's just steps. There's, like I said, baby steps. It may not be, you might not go from your corporate job now to being a dive instructor in Belize tomorrow. It might take a few months, it might take a year, might take several years, but just having something to look forward to, especially a trip. I feel like anytime I notice a friend or a family member kind of feeling down, I'm like, where are you headed to next? And sometimes they're dumbfounded, like, what do you mean? I'm like, where's your next trip? Where are you going? And they like light up. You can just see like, oh, I'm going to see my friend, Susie Joe, who lives, and they might just live in the next town over, but at least it's something, and something to look forward to, something to hold on to, and making small little changes. People have not always understood my lifestyle, people have not always understood me. Um, Oftentimes, when I tell my parents I'm going to a certain country, half the time they don't know where it is. Um, or they know where it is, and then there's some sort of fear comment behind it, like, oh, you're gonna get robbed there. And I'm like, Mom, I can get robbed anywhere. And I get it. It's real fear for our parents. They just want us to be safe and protected. But um, don't let that fear like keep you where you are. Like, you know, you got to see past the fear. You got to get past that part. And it's just gonna open doors. Opportunities are gonna start to arise. You're gonna start meeting more people that are aligned with you, whatever it is you want to do. If it's more travel, like I said with diving, like once I started diving and then realized, like, oh, I think I want to do more of this. Seriously, like divers just all of a sudden started coming into my life. It's wild how when you do something you're joyful with and you do something you love, people and places and things just start coming together. Um, Rather easily. Usually, if it's hard, it means it. Let me not say that. Um, there's often a lot of challenges and obstacles. Like, don't get me wrong. However, if it's bringing you joy still, like, keep going, keep looking for it. Um, and I know I'm kind of all over the place with this. I just really want to encourage people to take chances, live without fear, try to do things that make them joyful, and don't wait for tomorrow because it may never come. And again, you can't get time back. So if, like me, if scuba diving makes you happy, find a way to do more of it. And if arts and crafts make you happy, if painting makes you happy, um, there's just so many things out there that you can do and see and experience beyond this kind of this life that we've been told we're supposed to lead. So I hope that I've given you a little bit of knowledge, encouragement. And if you'd like more, again, comment anything you'd like to hear more about, whether it's travel, yachting, money, how I went from diving. I already kind of explained like going from Montana to diving, but if you want to know more about Montana or Wyoming, Florida, Bali, Mexico, Thailand, I don't know, anything, just ask me. I'd love to hear from you guys.